Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. So, joining me this week is my constant co-host for the second time in this week so far. It's Tom. What's up, Matty?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
We're living that AoS 2 lifestyle, Tom and I. I am still over in England, hence the unusual time for the show. I should have tweeted this out. I'll do that right now as we're talking. As we're doing the news, I'll tweet it out. But
it's going to go by quickly.
It's going to be a quick news segment because surprisingly, there hasn't been. Well, it's funny because actually we've gotten a lot of information in the last 4 days, but it's all stuff that's probably going to feed into our main discussion.
Right.
Because our main discussion today is going to be Tom and I strapping on the tinfoil hats, and it's time to go to town. It's time for us to make wild predictions about things that will almost certainly not be correct or true, stuff we will be off the mark on, and stuff that we can be made fun of later. So I'm excited about that.
I mean, let's be honest. That's what everybody loves about our show.
True. It's going to be, well, here's what's going to happen. We're going to make a bunch of predictions. We're going to be completely wrong. And you're going to then say in 2 months how we were right. Like, that's what's going to go. Because you'll be like, oh, well, it actually, see what I meant when I said this.
And then everybody's going to go defending our show on other websites and be like, they're always right.
Jesus. No. Very rarely are we right. I'm just repositioning myself here. Okay. So, let's get to the news, man. What do we got? Start us off.
So we have a reminder.
While I tweet. We do. I'll lock on you so you can share it up because that's going to be your job this week.
It is. And I am going to master that job. I'm working on it.
I can't wait for you to fail so terribly at this.
Oh, I know how to share a window. Boom. So, you excited for Slanesh, Vince?
Yeah, dude. I mean, we've said it's coming for a while. Like, I know you're always like, oh, but actually it's something else. It's really this other thing, and they're just tricking us. And, to be fair, sometimes you're right. Like, the thing we thought was really elves that was custodes, right, turned out to be custodes and other things like that. Sure,
Yep.
You've been right. Sometimes they've been somewhat trolling, right?
Sure.
But this time, come on. Like, that is a Slanesh claw. Like, there is no other thing that is. That's what that is.
The question is which Slanesh claw?
I'm gonna go. I'm going all in. Keeper of Secrets. I mean, we've known there's a new Keeper of Secrets in the hopper for a while. Theoretically, we'd get the Slanesh release for 40K first. The Keeper kit could work both games. It could be like an Enkari / Keeper. One of the fun questions I've seen tossed around is could we have multiple heads? Because we have like a version of sort of the weird old kind of, cow anteater head, and also have like the supple feminine head of the Exalted Keeper. Could we have different lower bodies, like a snake tail versus legs? Maybe all of that, but I think it's the Keeper claw. It looks like it's decently sized in this. This isn't a huge claw. Let me just say that. Like, you can see some of the highlight points.
Yep.
Pretty clearly where the paint
is there. Do you think
there.
this is the second set of claws instead of the first set?
Yes, I do. I think this is the lower set of claws, right? Like the secondary set. And the reason I think it's not just some regular daemonette or something like that is because of the 5 prongs on the back. That does speak to a certain amount of size, right? Like there are the 5 prongs on the back. Why do I think it's the Keeper?
No, I'm saying I think it's a new Fiend of Slanesh.
Oh, could be that too. Theoretically, those would be perfectly valid in both games as well, right? I mean, really, if you started with a demon release, unless you had like a Zangor type of thing, the reality is almost anything demon is going to work across both armies. We also know that, well, we don't know, but I have no is strong. My strong inference has been that the mortal Slanesh worshippers that are in AoS will look very different than the mortal Slanesh we've seen previously. Again, to refresh everybody, leather-clad
Viper Daddies
crossed with Hellraiser. Yes.
Yeah. Vince is called Shot, Leather Daddies crossed with Hellraiser.
Right. Exactly. We're going dudes. We're going leather-clad dudes, chains embedded in their flesh, stuff like that. Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. So we could do the demon release first, or something like that. Kind of like, or the 40K release, or however you want to think about it first, and then trot out the AoS release next year, or something like that, right?
Sure.
But yeah, this is the most clear image of a particular army I think we've seen in a while.
I don't know.
Right.
I still think the squig mouth was pretty clear.
That's true. We've seen a couple really on the nose recently, I guess. Like this one, it would be almost impossible to believe this is anything else. Right?
Agreed.
Like that is such an iconic image of Slaanesh. So, whatever.
Yeah. Or it could be, lust Tyranids.
Sure. They don't just want to eat you anymore. Oh no. Oh, this is much worse. This is so much worse.
It leads it raises a whole new questions about those face huggers.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it always has been a thing for procreation, but I suppose the entire point of Slaanesh isn't procreation, right? Anyway, this is a bit off topic. So, what else have we got news-wise?
Not a lot. Forge World is discontinuing their paint line.
A bunch of it went last chance to buy. Yeah, like a bunch of it. Basically all.
Basically all of it. And it sounds like a lot of it just wasn't being bought. And then some of them are going to be getting rolled potentially into some of the main line.
Yep.
So
that's the hope. They said especially they were trying to get the clears in, which I think is the thing they actually really need to get in there. Like the clears were the thing out of Forge World stuff that really stood out to me. That they didn't have any good version of in the regular Citadel line, despite having like 600 paints. Now you could go to like Badger and get ghost tints. You could go out to Tamiya and do the enamel-based, like the X27 or whatever for your red. Those are all fine. Don't get me wrong. I have no issue with those. But not everybody knows about those. Some people are sort of ride or die Citadel, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It was funny. Oh, can I tell a slight story about this, by the way?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
When we were at
Warhammer Fest.
When I was at Warhammer Fest, Max and Aiden did an awesome talk about sort of Golden Demon and how they judge it. Because they've both been judges. Max was a judge this time. Aiden has judged many previous ones.
Yeah.
And they were talking about sort of how they work and what they look for.
Okay.
And it was an awesome talk. It was just like an hour-long sort of thing. They Q&A. And one of the interesting things that came up was how they work. So like when they finish a job, let's say Max finishes a paint job in whatever time he's been allotted to do it.
Yep.
There are like 10 members of the heavy metal team total. So what happens is that model or models then gets passed around to each of them. Okay. And every person has about 10 minutes to like call out every flaw and error and correction that needs to be made. And then that, so like the original painter takes that down and then it goes to the next person. So everything that all of them paint has 9 other master painters giving like detailed critical feedback on it.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, what an amazing system. Like no wonder their stuff looks fantastic. Because that is an incredible feedback loop.
That is a crucible.
Yeah, it really is. Like I would my God, I would love to have like 9 people be able to judge your thing in person. Like we all share our stuff online and certainly we can get critical feedback, but there is just a difference, right? To looking at a piece in person, you really can judge things and spot the flaws a little easier. So yeah. Anyway, they were asked about like, do they use any of the Forge World paints when they're doing their stuff? And they were like, no, not really. Like we just I don't know why. We just haven't. And they're like, in general, we kind of have what we need. And like the new paints that come out, by the way. So like all the Iron Rack stuff for the Deepkin, the new Ghost stuff, the Deathwatch green, that's their mixes. Like he said they tried like 18 different greens until they got to Deathwatch green. And then they recorded sort of the ratio, the exact paint mix, and sent that over, and then had them produce a new paint that was exactly that.
Wow.
So that heavy metal team is actually like those new paints are their personal mixes that they basically discover and refine in the studio and then put into a pot so you don't have to try to replicate what they were mixing, which I thought was cool. It's kind of neat.
Speaking of Warhammer Fest,
yeah,
there
man.
was a golden demon there.
There was. Yeah, there was. Yeah, okay. Sure. So it was, I'll talk a little about that. I'm going to do a separate video about it. Sorry, I have it packed away. I should have got it out beforehand. But there he is.
Look at that. Vince has a golden demon. You want to hear an awesome story about this?
Sure, man.
So I showed my wife the photo.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
She looked at it and she goes, Vince can paint better than that, right? Because she thought the golden demon was the thing.
Was the thing I had painted, yeah.
Yes, and I was like, yeah, maybe sometimes.
My wife was like, that thing is really ugly, and I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of its thing. It's supposed to be like, it's been the same trophy for decades for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But the thank you to everybody who said congratulations. Thank you to everybody who said something on Twitter, who posted on the Facebook thing. Thank you to everybody. I am deeply appreciative of all the kind words and everything like that, and all the support. That's amazingly nice of everyone, and really, really like heartfeltly, deeply appreciated. There was amazing stuff there. I'll talk about it probably in a separate video. I don't want to drone on about it here. But I will say that one of my favorite things about it, obviously other than walking with the trophy, which was great, but was meeting so many people that I had only met online. I got to spend a lot of time hanging out with Riyadh from Tabletop Minis, who went home with 2 himself. I got to spend a bunch of time hanging out with Gareth Nichols, who went home with like 4, who is an amazing painter and has obviously won a ton of stuff. Gareth is just the nicest guy in the world, and unbelievably humble.
Shout out to James for helping me not get arrested.
Okay, sure. There you go. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad that James helped her not get arrested. And just a lot of, like, I got to meet Richard Gray, it's somebody who's a personal idol of mine, and he gave me some feedback on my stuff, which was awesome. So I just want to also shout out to, I got to meet John Blanche, which was great. Like just being able to meet all those people and spend time with people who I really also admire and have talked to, and both was immensely rewarding and awesome. I got to run into Steve Foote, who just posted in the comments, and to meet him in person. It was just it was awesome. It was fantastic. So there you go. Got to give Rob a hug.
Cuddles.
Yes, give Rob some cuddles. Mr. Honest Wargamer was there, so it was great. Like, catching up with everybody was awesome. So there you go. Thank you to everybody who stopped and said hi and everything like that. I don't want to drone on about this too long. I've already gone on too long. But thank you to everybody for making me feel very welcome over here in every way. So I really deeply appreciate every aspect of it, and meeting everybody, getting to say hi and everything was the thing that will stay with me, really, and makes me want to come back. So there you go.
I'm having your wife here. Jerk.
Yes, my wife said, and also having her here. That is, of course, what made it all worth it.
Oh, stuff.
Indeed. And the reason why I brought it up is you're just filling my airtime, Vince, for news.
Sure.
Because I just know we have nothing. Let's
talk about the articles that went up, right?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
No. We will. I want to hit a couple more news points. One, the IDNS Deep 10 FAQ went up.
Yeah.
It's worth noting. This, a lot of it was stuff we expected. The Icon Bearer, 1 in every 10. Surprise! We knew that was going to be it, folks. The Leviathan's attacks went from 3 to 6. So shout out to Vince or Gary Percival first, and then Vince, who brought it up on the show. That should have been 2. And Domus is like, no, I think it's 3. No, I think it's 6.
Yeah, Gary and I had been talking about it in the Deepkin chat. Yeah, I agreed with him. It read, because of the difference in the text, it read like it should have said 6.
Right.
That's why I brought it up on the show, because I thought Gary was right. And it turns out Gary was right. # Gary was right. So there you go. It should have been 6.
Indeed. And then they changed the Morphon Namarti core to 6 Reavers instead of 6 of the other dudes, which they already had. That was the one that I was like, it's completely worthless, and they fixed it. So, yeah, so it was good. It was good just across, and then finally like that spur, the one item they fixed as well. Like it does something now.
Oh
which,
yeah. The thing that literally did nothing. Yeah.
That literally did nothing. Yeah, they fixed that. So that was good. We got a couple articles this week from the new armies, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. The only other things I wanted to mention was the Shade Spire, alternate beta rules that went up.
Yeah. Which, if you're playing Shade Spire, you should absolutely check out. I'll throw a link to that down in the show notes.
Yep.
Just so everybody can see it. Because if you're playing Shade Spire, you should probably be checking out these rules.
Yeah. So that's out there. Go check it out. It's a thing. And we'll talk about the other articles, but that's the news.
Cool. So yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk about what's already. So before we get into that, let's do some pick of the week. Let's do some hobby time and that kind of stuff, and then we'll burn through the articles. So Tom, what would you like to share with everybody for your pick of the week? While you're thinking, Tom. So what I would like to share with everybody is, if you're interested in Golden Demon, you're interested in trying to win one, Gareth actually has a really awesome blog that he wrote about it. That is something that I looked at and read and love. And if you are somebody who has sort of designs on putting one of those on your shelf, I think it is absolutely worth reading and internalizing very well. Gareth has a wall of those things. I mean, he's not like Angelo DiCello, the guy who took the Slayer sword. I think this is, I don't know if this actually puts him over 50, but the story is that he has somewhere over 50. So, but Gareth is way up there. Like, dude has as I said, he pulled 4 in this one alone. So he has a really great blog about what he considers the critical elements. It is a very different contest than the other ones I've been to. I'm going to do a video talking about my experience at Golden Demon and what my perceptions of it after this time and why I do want to go back again. But I think Gareth's blog is absolutely something you should read from somebody who clearly knows what they're talking about. So there you go. That's my pick of the week, and I'll link it down in the description.
Cool. I am going to promote where'd it go? I just had it up here. I'm going to promote Tyler Mangel's blog. He did an article, Age of Sigmar, a new age dawns, and a look back. That article dropped today, and he just kind of looks over like the year 1, year 2 of AoS, year 3, and then like how far we've kind of come. And so it's a great kind of like look through history, the last 3 years of where AoS has been. And I want to recommend it. So it's a great article. So check it out.
Nice. We will put that down in the show notes as well.
It's a lot, or like similar to the types of ideas that we have done.
Cool. Excellent. I dig it. So Tom, has your girl turned anything beyond purple since last we spoke? Since your last hobby time?
No. I cleaned my area.
Have you done anything?
Look, you can see the floor.
Congratulations.
Like, look.
Well, that is something. I shouldn't say that's something. No, cleaning the hobby space is important. That is an important thing.
And then, like, what you can't see is that the table I actually work on that's normally covered in paints and everything is completely bare. So, like, I feel the weight of inactivity because it's not even like my area looks busy right now. Like, it looks empty.
Sure. Well, no, look, after every project, I actually, I spend a good hour. This is what you had to probably spend longer because you don't do this. But after every project, I spend an hour putting all the paints back in their exact locations, putting all the brushes back in their exact locations, changing the wet palette, changing the water, putting away all trash, getting rid of cutting off all their extra bits, filing them into their proper location, and removing everything from the space. That's like, and then I start fresh. Next project, new clean workspace. If you do that, you'll find you like actually don't have to ever do the whole day project. But that's my own personal sort of take on it. You do you, whatever you like. I can't stand. I see some people's work areas and it makes my brain explode.
Wow.
Everything has to be in its place, and there needs to be a place for everything. So there you go.
Mine's done. I almost put paint on her yesterday. Honestly, like I'm trying to find an ink that I like. That's like, I'm not lying about this. I've been looking for a good purple ink because the ink that I have is a blue ink, and the only other inks that I can find nearby from the normal My Artist inks are like violets. And so I can't. So I'm gonna have to mix something and I don't like. You know how much I like mixing things. I want to buy things. Like I want to buy what I'm going to use rather than have to mix it and mix like bottles of it. So especially when I'm doing 120 bodies, like which body? Like I want something that I can just purchase and have reliability. So I've been like hunting for that formula. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we'll hope we can get you turned around here soon. Obviously, for myself, I would say I haven't done any additional hobby, but that's not true. Obviously, I haven't been hobbying on anything. I have no paints or anything here with me. But I have been plotting stuff out. I've already been sketching out some schemes, making some plans for what I'm going to work on when I get home, just sort of testing some colors and bouncing some ideas off of people, that kind of thing. Because, one competition down, next one's on the horizon. It's a never-ending treadmill. You keep fighting.
True.
So there you go. That's been my hobby time this week. And I cannot wait to get back to my desk, my comfortable desk, and start painting again. Like it's going to be a thing. So I'll need to just lock myself. Like, unfortunately, Deadpool had the audacity to release this weekend. So, I've got to take at least 2 hours to go see that. I mean, come on. Yeah. But I can't, look, we've got to do something else in life. So, but otherwise I would just be painting until Sunday. Like from the time I land, I would sleep like maybe 2 or 3 hours and then just be painting. Got to catch up. Like like somebody said, I'm a true addict. Yeah, I get that twitch right now. Like I haven't painted in a while. I can feel it. So it's, there it is. Anywho. So let's start tinfoil hatting, shall we?
Yeah, well, let's review what we know.
Yeah.
So they've done 3 retrospect, like it's through 3 preview articles, talking about the 2 new factions of the 2 new starter box factions. Well, I guess we could talk about Warhammer Fest and all the photos and everything that dropped too, right?
Well, we kind of already did.
Yeah, the photos are out there. Go look at my Twitter feed. Go look at Vince's Twitter feed. Go look at Adia. Like they have tons and tons and tons of photos from Warhammer Fest. And with that, you can see a lot of the models in the new articles that we're going to link below. And in there we have basically the new faction of Stormcast wizards / whatever that is, priests and astrologers and engineers and whatever else falls into that grouping. People who wear tabards. That's what I call that Stormcast faction, the tabard wearers. That just means that all the order factions get a wizard finally. That was not a thing. Like that was actually a thing previously. Like none of the dwarf factions could get wizards. So that's what that says to me. That's that everybody gets a wizard faction. What else? And then the Night Haunts were a bunch of ghosts. Right?
A bunch of ghosts. That's your summation.
Yeah, I mean,
a bunch of pretty cool
like
ghosts.
A mounted ghosts and some ghosts on foot carrying like 2 weapons and some Skaven ghosts and some key ghosts. And
they were assassin ghosts. It's specifically what it says. They were hunters and assassins. If you read the article, it does talk about all the different types of ghosts and where they come from. But yes, there are a lot of ghosts. And a brand new black coach that looks sweet as all get out.
And a ghost chariot.
Yes. All the ghosts. The number of times that Thor meme is going to
The
get
piss off
posted
ghost.
in the next 6 months, piss off ghosts, is just like
Already done it.
it is. Yeah, I've seen it all over already. Like, get ready for that one to be. That better be on your like speed meme. Like, just you're ready to throw that up in a heartbeat.
Indeed.
The obviously we saw the Stormcast have the new mounts. The Wizard's also going to be on one of the big birds, like the Lord Aqualor. Then there's the new like bulldog tiger mounts or whatever you want to call them. Somebody said lion dogs, sure, like whatever they're supposed to be.
They thought. Was it the rumor engine mouth that was spoiled? Was the lion dogs?
No, I think it was somebody saying that the fur might be their fur, but I'm not sure it is. I haven't seen it at that angle. I haven't seen anybody line it up yet. It could be. I don't know. Possibly. I mean, a lot of rumor engines came out of this. Like a ton were just answered. One of the there was like a smoky thing that was there. This sort of piece that's on the back of the executioner guy who's swinging the axe and has the headsman thing on his back. The Stormcast and anvil. Like, there's just a ton of rumor engines that got answered. Also, I think we got the answer to the oldest unanswered rumor engine, the one we kept talking about being KO. It's probably the dude out of Kill Team. Or is that what it is? Rogue Trader. Sorry, Rogue Trader. The dude out of Rogue Trader. Which they also sort of, leaked right before that.
Which was like
bonkers.
February of last year.
Right.
Or something like that with the rumor engine.
Yeah. So like it's been the rumor engine, I haven't seen an updated image yet, but my God, are there a lot answered now by these two factions dropping. Indeed. These are big ranges too. As to what comes in the starter box, like you would ask the question, is what was in the case maybe the starter box?
Right. Like, did you get a count of the models to get a...
I did. Yeah, I did. I did count the models, and it felt like a little more than what would be in a normal starter box.
Okay.
But that's hard to put a finger on, right? Like it could be that they're also launching a big new cheap starter box.
Well, and like if it was like not Armageddon, if it was like Dark Imperium, like that's a $160 starter box as opposed to the $125 previously.
Right. So it could be that just they're upping the price point, so they also up the models. That's entirely possible. One of the interesting things that people have seen and have asked about was our new Shadespire crews hanging in there, because we saw the
bases.
We've seen the spoil that looks like there's going to be a Night Haunt and a Stormcast out of this chamber Shadespire crew. And so some people saw like the cards that got spoiled in a preview, right? And some people saw the texture, or the whatever, what are we gonna call them? Cast bases, whatever, right? Like the not sand bases with stuff on them, like Shadespire has, and asked if this is the new crew. I did take note of those. There was a lot more of those than just what the Shadespire, what a Shadespire crew could be. Right. So, for example, the artillery was on one of those bases. They had versions of some of the mounts, like the big mounts on those bases. They had one character repeated in the case, like there was two different versions of her in two different start times. Yep. And they had one had the base and one didn't. So what it actually raises the question to me is,
new basing materials?
Are the bases just going to be part of the starter box? Will the starter box come with some special bases?
You know what you should have done is done like a count of how many had textured versus not. Because potentially
it was still very minimal. It was like in the Stormcast there was like 10 or 11 models that had the special bases, and the Night Haunts had like about the same number across the whole thing. So like more than would be a Shadespire crew, right? And pieces that you wouldn't expect to see in a Shadespire crew,
but less than
I don't know, but less than a full starter box, right? So it was just weird. I don't know.
Excellent observation.
That was one of the things that I noticed right away. So we've we've spoiled both factions and had the faction focus on both of them.
We've had clarity. We got a new war scroll design.
Yes.
Let me see if I can
which is looking good. Yeah, why don't you see if you can find that real quick. I like the new war scroll design. I like some of the new rules. I like the Suicide Bomber Stormcast. I think that's fun. Like
the
that.
Wizard, a flying
the wizard that's going to clearly blow themselves up in a lot of games.
Why?
But
he's only going to do 3 wounds to himself, right, Max?
You're saying that Stormcast wizards who would be within 3 inches of an enemy to use that bomb aren't going to be potentially already wounded?
No, of course not.
Yeah, sure. Things can get wounded in this game, Tom. I'm not sure if you understand how things get played. You don't get to stay at your maximum wounds forever.
Mine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure. I'm quite sure of that, Tom. Yeah, clearly they're horizontal. They're more easily put into battle cards now or stuff like that, right? Like this format is much more easily readable at this sort of for other formats. So I could see them doing printed versions of these, certainly. And one has to imagine that they're using this as an excuse. They said there'll be minor changes to some war scrolls. So I have to imagine they're going to use this as an opportunity to clean some stuff up.
Right? I hope so. Oh, man. Like, I hope... I was thinking about this. Like, so as much as... Here's the war scroll design, by the way.
Yep, let's lock on you. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I love it. I love
the addition of the picture is such an obvious thing that should have been there from the beginning. But hey,
and I like the little like clockwork stuff around the dial in the top left.
Yeah, it's cool. So it's a well designed, easy to read, good breaks in the sections. Yeah, the picture's so obvious.
Yep. And it would fit on a good like landscape card.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder like so I think about back in our January show when we were talking about the new FAQ that dropped, and it was really sparse. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And how we talked about like, oh look, like they've really refined stuff, and like I wonder if just they fix like the glaring issues, and then they like a lot of design work and a lot of balancing was just pouring into working on the new material.
Sure. I think this is a good redesign overall. It's still, and by the way, the important part about this is it says, yeah, guess what? None of the fundamental elements of this game are changing, right? Like in this one first released card, you were like, yep, same sort of keywords and flying and ethereal and all the wounds and move and save and bravery and ranges and attacks and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, right? For some reason, though, like this guy's not doing mortal wounds anymore.
Well, that's probably just the nature of him. He isn't attacking with his claws. Remember, it's the claws of the ghosts that do the mortal wounds. Like they did mention in the Night Hunt article that that's still a thing. It's just clearly not all of them are going to attack with their ghostly claws, so then they won't do the mortal wound thing. But my guess is they'll keep it for all the ones that are just going. That's how they sound.
All of them.
That's the sound.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I love everything about it. So, where are we at? So Ghosts and that today we just had another faction article drop, which was the Everchosen and the Slaves of Darkness. I was super stoked from that article. When they announced it, I thought we might be getting a combined variant, like Everchosen Slaves of Darkness, like mini faction, and that they were kind of signaling that they were going to combine some of that. But if you look at the interview and the discussion, they're not. They talked about running like 1,600 points of Everchosen and 400 allied Slave to Darkness, and I was like, "Aw."
I'm okay with it. I want them to be separate. I was happy. Like that article included everything I needed to know, which was one, Archaon's command ability is going to stay the same and be one of the most powerful command abilities in the game. Okay, so we know there'll be some kind of pool of command ability access, right? Like we know that all of the people will get to use their command abilities. The fact that Archaon is going to why it's going to be the most powerful is because it's going to turn a cost, some kind of resource cost, into a free.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I hear that. What I would say is this: like, I like that. I like the fact that they said they're going to reduce his cost, and they're going to reduce the Vanguard's cost, and they're going to reduce the War Shrine's cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay for War Shrine cost reduction, because that's such a cool model to include. It was just overpointed for what it could do.
Like I love my conversion, but I agree with you. It's not worth the 180 or whatever it's at right now.
Sure. I would love to see the there's minor touches. Obviously, we all joke all the time about the Slayer of Kings being rend neg 1. And sure, I mean, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, I could have an up rend. It could also have an easier way or some kind of way to okay. Right now, it has that basically kill you outright thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's got to be kind of tightly controlled, because you can't bonus that too hard. Like, there are fun ways that you can bonus that. We've talked about it before, like the Lord of Khorne on Juggernaut, who can make Archaon trigger that on like a 3-up if you've got a stack of them following him around.
Yep.
But like, what I would love to see is them redefine the Slayer of Kings. Like, I appreciate that effect, but it's a little too swingy right now in what it does. In that it's either basically a feather or a 16-ton weight, right? Like, It has no middle ground.
Right.
And I think that what I would love to see is the Slayer of Kings be not really that swingy of an effect, but instead be just a consistent puncher. So I think Archaon will see. I think his command ability, as they said, will stay the same. Yep. I think what are his points going to land at? There you go. Pick a number. Plant your flag, Tom.
600.
620. There you go. That's my number. All right.
You priced it right.
I had 6.
You priced it
right at you.
You bastard.
But here's the funny thing. I had 620 in my head before you said a word. So I was going to say 620 either way. Yes. But I really like it's 620 because it'll be like the Alariel-ish size, right? And there's also a thing where like he can't get cheaper. This is sort of one of those funny meta things. It would be strange if Archaon was cheaper than Alariel.
Sure.
Okay. Like, just it would feel weird.
Well, do you think Alariel's going to stay the same cost?
Who knows? I guess she could come down too. But my point is that like he probably should be one of the most expensive War Scrolls. Like, only Nagash, who is like our only current true living god you can put on the table. Like, Alariel, I guess, is sure. We'll call her a god. That's fine. She is. But I mean, but come on, Alariel isn't a god in the same way as Nagash is, right? Like, Nagash has more or less ultimate power over a whole realm and is the leader of an entire Grand Alliance. Alariel has control of some trees. There's a difference. And that's not me insulting Alariel. I think she's an awesome character. But yeah, 620. There you go. And I think they'll up the Slayer of Kings and change the way it works. There you go. There's my prediction. Prediction the first. Done. All right.
The other piece of news that dropped this week that is relevant to our conversation is the reality that we now know how they have solved, quote, the double turn conundrum.
And your immediate thoughts, Tom?
On the new mechanic?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the new mechanic first.
Sure.
For those of you that don't know, basically what they've revealed is that the way that it will work when you are rolling for priority, and someone is angling for the double turn. So let me be clear, we don't know what it looks like for determining first turn yet. It has not been stated in any public fashion. So this is basically only for the double turn, like for going from, turn 1 to turn 2 and getting those back-to-back turns. When you're determining priority and you do your roll off, the only difference now is that when you roll, if you tie, a tie becomes a win for the person who ever went first at the beginning of last turn.
Yeah, effectively to preserve the turn order.
Yeah, the player that doesn't have a chance to double turn.
Right. Wins ties.
Yep. And so they can
preserve the turn order.
Yes, they can choose to be double turned or they can choose to preserve the turn order.
Sure. Which if I had if I went first, let me just say this. Like, I can see a lot of times where if I went first, and I had buffed myself, pretty well and was in a real defensible position, I can absolutely see me giving away the double turn at the top of 2.
Yeah.
To then
come on over.
Right. Exactly. To then have still a chance at the double turn into 3 where I'm actually going to win the game.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to give it away every time. So yeah. It's a great fix. There you go. That's my opinion on it. Perfect change.
And basically the numbers end up, thanks to Paul Conti for this, the numbers end up at almost 60% chance to maintain the current turn order.
Right. Yep. Assuming that the person does give it away. Like
correct.
That is to say that they choose to preserve the turn order. Doesn't give away the turn priority. There you go.
Indeed. Yep. So that's where we're at for actual knowledge of the new edition. So let's
we're gonna build on this.
Yes.
And start tinfoil hatting like crazy.
Yes.
All right, let's begin the prediction phase. Now, laying it out. Tom and I know nothing, have seen nothing. We have no inside view of this.
We're not on the inside.
No, yes. Assume that all of this is done solely. This is all done solely on inference alone. So we are very likely to be wrong here. If we're right, it's by accident. There you go. Okay. Now, all that being said, what are the things you think, based on what we've seen so far, we will see?
I think we are going to lose the whoever finishes dropping first wins initiative.
I agree. I think that will become a whoever wins first gets +1 to the roll at the start of the game.
Maybe.
That's the simple fix.
That is
the lightest touch.
Or you can generate the same math, by the way. By, instead of doing that, just saying whoever finishes first wins ties.
You could. That's a good point. You could do the tie thing as well.
And then it actually preserves the current mechanic that they've just rolled out. And so it's just...
Good point.
Yeah. So it could be the +1, but because they've rolled out this mechanic, it makes me wonder if they're going to just stick with that mechanic.
It's an interesting point. Yeah. That's funny. It could be. But,
they could adopt a 40K mechanic, but who knows?
Sure. No, we've seen the hints that they're going to change that.
Well, and the reason why I say this is because that would let them preserve the rule of 1 that says that you can't modify the turn priority roll, right?
Sure, sure.
Because, so it'll let them actually keep that hard rule if they're not going to go through
all
the rules.
Yep. No, that's a good point. And it would still... it would still be a certain advantage because then it still gives you a 60-40 to win, basically first turn if you drop first. Yep. Yeah. No, that is a good idea. I'm gonna go with your idea. Tom, I give the point to you, sir, in our imaginary debate here. I agree with your prediction.
Okay. That's what I got for turn priority. That's the one I think that's going to be the big change. Something that I actually welcome because it'll force people, it'll push against skew lists. Lists like my alpha bunkering lists and stuff like that have to go first.
True. It also allows them to reduce the cost of battalion sum. Right? Because one of the great values of battalions, especially big battalions, is if you can fit your whole army in and shrink your drops to 1 or near 0. Right. That has to be costed in. Like that battalion has to be expensive in the new model because it guaranteed you first turn.
Right.
And whereas now, if that's not the case, if it only basically gives you a 10% bump in that roll, let's say, then we have a much different set of expectations around how we unpack those costs.
Right, and we can dial back the cost significantly, which is not unlike what we've seen for recent battalions.
Yeah, and well, if you look at a lot of the recent battalions, there's very few of them that are like you can get your whole army into 1 anyways. Right. There are a couple. It's not easy. You have to make real sacrifices to do it. It's not like some of the old school ones like Plague Touched or something where you could pretty much where you can pretty much get out your whole army, right? Pretty easily and still have a lot of choice. Yep. Like you're very not hemmed in those old battalions. You can kind of go nuts. Anytime you see There's a lot of those old battalions that say any number of additional blah unit. And it's just like, okay, go nuts is basically what it's saying, right?
Yep.
You don't see that terminology get used recently
No.
because they've understood that causes problems. All right. We know the magic phase is basically going to stay the same because we've seen spellcasting.
Yep.
And it's still hero phase to hero phase, so we know we're not getting like a different magic phase or something like that. We know that the weird spells are going to act more in the bottom of the battle round, which is interesting to me. Like they mentioned that in the article. I don't. Do you have a swing at what the heck that means? Because I do not.
I don't. I'm just like great, more things to track. I mean, what I would
you'll have a big physical model for it, or at least a base with a picture printed on it.
Indeed.
I suspect that's going to come up a lot, by the by. Is a base with a picture printed on it is going to happen quite a few table, like garage games.
I mean, what I would say is that the one thing that I did hear, a rumor that I caught wind of, I don't know how legitimate it is or not, but just the idea that they truly are going to get rid of reinforcement points for summoning.
Right. So do we want to predict? Let's turn to command points in general because it's wrapped up.
No, but this is not related to command points. Like, and so this is what I was going to push back against. I had heard that they're going to tie it to spellcasting in general, and so under the new spellcasting system, you will generate spell points by casting spells.
Okay.
And
so sort of like a contagion points thing.
Like a contagion point. It's like you will accumulate magic, and the more magic that you accumulate, the easier it is to summon.
Interesting. I hope you're wrong.
I hope so.
You could be right. It goes in line with things like contagion points, but I hope that is false. Because, like,
Tzeentch is like,
yeah. I mean, the problem with that would be it doesn't necessarily match up. Like, how does Khorne summon then? Khorne still summons. Like, Khorne sends demons all the time.
Khorne points, and that's the point: is that you don't pay for summons anymore. Like in that world, summons never cost.
Sure, what, the blood tithe at like 8 points?
Yeah.
Then it better be a heck of it. Like,
and Nurgle would have to summon by contagion points.
I would need to see that system unpacked. Like that, as you've described it seems rife with challenges because certain armies have such an inequity as to how they get spells cast, right? Like there's a lot of inequity in Magic in armies, which is fine, by the way, in the current game. But if I can start bringing in free models, right? If I'm not setting aside points for them anymore, based on spamming spells, that would have to have some serious governor switches on it, right?
Like imagine that, like, so it would like, I'm just throwing out a number. I don't even know how they would adjudicate this. But like, let's say that for every 10 points a unit cost, you had to have a spell point or something. So like, take like I don't even know what the system looks like. Again, it could be a cost on war scrolls. I don't know how this would work. But it would be like, so maybe you'd have to have 12 spell points in order to summon a unit of pink horrors or something.
Let me ask you a question. We know command points exist. There's not a question. Like that's been talked about openly.
Yep.
Why would you have this separate system? What would be the purpose to this?
And not use command points?
Sure. Like, why would you introduce an entirely new mechanic that we're already going to have to absorb in command points? That is going to like fundamentally change some elements and aspects of the game. And then also, by the by, here's some other new weird subsystem that would require like
we already have
a lot of unpacking.
Weird subsystems being introduced. Let me point that out. Like
that seems like a pretty big weird one.
Well, I'm saying we have army subsystems. We have a new magic like malign sorcery subsystem.
Sure.
I mean, like that. It seems like from a design standpoint, that is the trajectory we were going, is subsystems.
Which is fine. Like I've never had a problem with bolt-on rules in this game. Right? Like I think it bolts on well. Yep. And I think I like subsystem design. I always have. I think it's a good way to go because then you can either, if you can remove a chunk of the game, you can play without it. You don't need to know that information. My biggest issue is I'd rather just not even play with it. Like that sounds scary to me. again,
Sure,
just off
and
of how
fair.
you've described
And
it, there's
right, and there are
probably a
probably
reasonable way to introduce what you're
play
talking
with
about.
summoning.
Right. Sure. Also, like educating what's a summoning army and what isn't, and what you can summon. Like, obviously, we have some stuff that has the summonable keyword in death, but like, that's not like that. We're going to implement that across the rest of the place.
Right.
Whew. So, okay.
Yeah.
Command. Let's talk about command points, because that's the other way I could roll. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that it's tough for me to imagine.
Well, what I'm
what
saying
you're
is
talking about.
I don't think there's a clear way forward, period. Like, at all. I don't think there's a clear way forward. Because I think command points, there's an inequity to them that are as equally problematic. You just saw the Relian's comment, didn't you?
No, I was actually somebody. Tyler was tweeting at me because I was besmirching Alariel.
Legitimate.
Look, she's fine. Okay. Jeez. All right. Anyways, she is just in charge of trees. Look, I'm sorry. I'm not the one who decided what to be in charge of. Archaon has a massive fortress in the all points access to the realms and is the grand marshal of the apocalypse. She barely survived and lived inside a pod for a while. I mean, we're not talking about the same thing here. One person it brings about the ends of realities. Not worlds, realities. There's a scale here. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Anywho, let's talk about command points, right?
Yep.
How are these going to?
What are they going to do?
Yeah, what are they going to do? Let's start putting some stuff down.
Yep.
Let's start planting some ridiculous flags. I'm glad that I'm glad there are people watching this who know the real answer, who can laugh to themselves about how wrong we are too. That really excites me.
Totally.
There's an extra layer of the show for like 3 people watching.
those beta testers that are in our comments. Okay. What's your first bid?
Command points will allow you to activate your command. I'll go for the simple one. Will allow you to activate your command abilities. Let's say that whomever you nominate as a general either does it the cheapest, whatever that means. Okay, whether it be free or at the lowest cost.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And the other people have a higher cost to some degree. There you go.
Yeah, I think
that's my.
I think you're dead on. I think it'll probably be that, like your general can activate their command ability every round free. Everybody else will pay a command point to activate their command abilities. That's my guess. Yes, I think the pool is going to be relatively limited on command abilities. Mm-hmm. If I were to take a guess, you're going to get again, now we're really shooting in the dark.
Sure.
My guess would be something like you get 1 per hero. Or 1 per leader model. There you go. 1 per leader model, plus an additional 1 per battalion or something.
Well, so you're talking about how you accumulate these things, the number you get.
I'm saying, I don't think it's a renewable resource. People talk about generating points. I think it's going to be something you'll get at the beginning of the game, and that will be it. Period. For
the most part, though, there are always going to be a few weird ways to save them. So let's talk about 40K, which has command points real quick. I'll run this through. Yep. So command points in 40K are generated based on the detachments you take and what is contained within them. The ones that are more troop focused generate more. They just upped the number recently of the main battalions that focus on troops. They increased the number of command points you get out of them to 5 and 12, I think, respectively, from 3 and 9. That's off the top of my head. And the more, you can take any number of those detachments as long as you can fit the appropriate unit requirements in. Every one of them contributes some number of command points. You burn command points on stratagems, and that's effectively how you do tricksy command ability-like things in 40K. Because units don't really have command abilities in the same way that we would. So, for example, being immune to battle shock is an expenditure of command points through a universal stratagem, right?
Yes.
So we don't have any of those mechanics, right? This is going to be different. We don't have detachments.
Those. Yes.
And I don't think we're going to get detachments in the same way. I don't think we're going to get those kind of so we won't have that way to build up command points. I don't think we're going to get stratagems because stratagems would be like an entirely new thing you need to publish and would be duplicative with command abilities. Like we already have stratagems; they're called command abilities. Right. So like that's already there.
Yeah. Units bring stratagems.
Right. So my answer would be that what we'll see is how are you talking about accumulating them? Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. How do you get these? Go ahead.
Like in army creation, I would say that you get them and you spend them. You can spend some of them.
So there's obviously you're going to have some base number, right? Like even in 40K, you have some base number. It's like 3 plus blah.
Sure.
Okay. So there's going to be some base number. Let's call it 3 because generally 3 is a good number. It's the rule of threes. Okay. And then it's going to be +1 per something, like hero with a command ability or battle line choice.
I think it'll be leader. Anybody like it'll be tied to the match play profile of leader.
Do you don't think like battle line units might also contribute in the
Nope.
to sort of represent the way that like troops add more command points in 40K?
Nope. If I were to take a guess, it would be leader and battalion based.
Sure. So you're saying like let's say 1 per battalion you have or something like that, right?
Yeah,
so re-upping the cost of battalions again.
Well, I think you'll have to buy.
Battalions have gone down and gone up now.
Right. Like what I mean by this, I think you'll have to buy your items with your points from the battalion. So it will have a net 0 gain item-wise because battalions will no longer grant a free item.
I got it. So they'll grant 1 point, but you can the artifact is 1 point.
Yes, you can spend your artifact on that 1 point.
Yes, I think that's going to be absolutely the case. Like, so just to hammer on that, let's talk about the other uses of command abilities. Buying artifacts. Yep, makes total sense. And then something that somebody just said is my issue with your accumulation rule is that it makes it very hero hammery. That's why I think you'll also see something like the battle line. I really do, because that pushes back and gives people another way to build them, or something like that. I don't know for sure that it's going to be. Maybe it's max size battle line unit, or maybe it's whatever.
Maybe how about this? Ooh, I got it. So rather than a base 3, which is what you said,
yeah, sure.
Maybe it's just +1 per battle line unit.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Because you have to have 3 battle line in a 2,000 point army that gives you your base 3. Yeah, sure. And so then what I'm going to spend those on, in my mind, are 1, activating command abilities, right? Yep. Maybe for beyond my general, like theoretically the generals could still be 0 or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think you'll be able to activate anyone's more than once around. I would say that's an interesting question to ask. Like, can you double punch something? If you can, it's going to be at an exorbitantly increased cost. You understand what I'm saying? Like, can I double tap?
I don't think you'll be able to double tap, but I think if you have a bunch of death hags, well...
I'm not sure you won't be able to. But I would say that, like, because you could put in, I need to think about this more, but you could put in the ability to do so, but at an extremely exorbitant cost for the seconds.
Like double the cost each time.
Well, let's say it's 1 point to do it once and 3 points to do it again.
Right.
Like, you blow more or less your command point allotment, right, by doing it a second time. So the other thing, I agree with you on the artifacts. I think the age of like second and tertiary and quadrary free artifacts are gone. I think you definitely buy those with your command points, right? To me, your like command points translating into summoning makes the most sense because you can stick it in the same bucket. The problem is I have no idea how that math translates.
Right.
Like that's the problem.
Is it 1 point for me to summon a greater and clean one?
Right. Yeah. Like what the heck does that mean? What does summon a unit mean? Right. Or something like that. Like how many do I get for this? It starts to boggle the mind how you'd have to do that. So that's like problematic.
That's
which is the thing against my own thought of not introducing a new subsystem, right? The advantage of a bespoke subsystem around summoning would be you could then make it very tailored to summoning. It would need to sit and fit with these other rules.
Right. So. And which is why, like, I could see it fitting, like, as much as I agree there's complications, it solves the problem of, like, Balewind Vortex. Like, the Balewind sits in the space of malign sorcery. Like, anything you want to bring onto the table, whether it's another unit or whether it's a magical effect, sits in the malign sorcery mechanics.
Right.
And so summoning new units sits in, like, summoning spell effects onto the table. So.
What else do you think command points will be used for, if anything?
I know what I would do.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit crazy. If I was sitting at the helm, I would probably allow a blind, like this is going to take more time. It probably won't be blind, but a bidding on the priority roll.
I love it. I don't know that it's going to happen. I love everything.
But
about
right?
it. I love blind man's bluff in a game.
Like a blind man's bluff bid. Like,
Yeah.
and what we mean by this, folks, is that like when you go to roll priority, you would write down how many command points you're spending, and you gain that bonus to your roll.
Yep. And your opponent gets a chance to do the same, and you
Yes.
burn them regardless.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
I would love everything about that. I really would.
Like
it'd
how
be
good of
great.
a subsystem would that be? Yeah.
It'd be so fun. And it is a little unusual, which who knows? Maybe they could surprise us. But that's why I think it wouldn't be done. But I love the idea, right? Of like put up a number of fingers behind your back. It's gonna be that simple, right? And like that's how you determine your bonus, or something like that. Yeah, I mean that would be an awesome system.
Yeah,
I support that.
But they won't do that. Probably not. I mean, who knows? People ask about command points for
by the way.
rules. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean that's a standard sort of command point expenditure in 40K. Is you can burn command points for rerolls. It sort of gives everybody the Zinch playing field there of like rerolling critical rolls. I would be surprised to see that. Sort of. At the same time, it wouldn't shock me that much if they just said like, here's a general thing you can do.
Do you think that we'll have to? Ooh, here's one. Do you think we'll have to pay for Inspiring Presence?
No, I don't. Not out of the basic general. I think because that's just the thing. You sort of like, you kind of need there to be free options, which is why I think like they might put in something like the reroll. Like this is what gives me thoughts for the reroll. Is you kind of want to make it so no matter what, anybody, regardless of their army composition, has something to do with this resource. Right. Like from a game design perspective, if you're not doing summoning and you don't have a lot of magic items or whatever, right? You want to make sure that that all players have something to do with those points, and so sort of like generic rerolls are a pretty good, like everybody can use a reroll because it's a dice game and you're gonna duff a roll at some point. Right. So it can make sense as just like it can be the Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt of command points, right? Like the thing that you can always do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because like I know that I have no command abilities in my current order army.
Right. So like it raises the question of like you have no command abilities to. By the way, you're not the only one. There are multiple armies out there that I've seen that don't have any models that have command abilities. So if you can't burn your command points on those, you didn't intend to summon anything, right? Like you need something to expend those points on in lieu of all the rest.
Does everyone get a magical item?
Right. Like you might not even have enough heroes. Your army had like 2 heroes.
Oh no, that's not.
And you can only have 1.
I had 5.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. But there are.
But they have a bunch of dumb items. Like none of the items that ever actually do anything.
Right. So it could be that you have, but you could also have a low number of heroes, none of whom have command abilities, and a lot of KO armies are like this, right? Like they have 2 heroes, neither of them have command abilities. Like there's just nobody else to spend this crap on. You're not summoning anything, right? You can't give anybody more than 1 magic item, which I think will still stay the same,
right?
It's sort of the like baseline. This is what you can do, right?
Yep. So what else? So what other weird stuff do you see coming down the line?
All right, let's talk about some general stuff because I know we've got a hard stop here in 10 minutes. Yep. So here's the other things that I see. Like those are really the big stuff.
Yeah.
That.
So let's talk about range combat.
Yep. Shooting out of combat you will not be able to do it. So that's going to require. I want to unpack a definition there. They will formally define what being in combat means.
Will it be based on the unit or based on a model?
It will be based on the unit, and a unit will get dragged into combat. Okay. Yep. If it has a enemy unit within 3 inches of it. Okay, that unit will now count as being in combat. And to keep it clean and simple, they will say that unit can only shoot at the enemy unit it is in combat with. They will not do the nearest model thing. If you are in combat with multiple enemy units, you may target any of them.
Maybe. If I were doing it, I would make it by the model, because then it creates these weird structures, especially when things are strung out. It creates a weird, it creates a very, you could have other units closer to your enemy, to some of your unit than the actual people the quote unit is engaged with, but you're still not allowed to shoot them.
I agree completely. Yes.
Yeah.
You could have a unit, if you have a long strung out unit.
Yep.
And it gets tagged on this end, right over here.
Yeah.
But there's another unit sitting just outside of 3 inches up here.
Yep.
This guy right here has to shoot the thing all the way down at the other end that hasn't tagged.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
The problem is that what I'm saying is that's what I have defined is the simplest answer.
Right? Yeah, I don't agree with that, because we do measurements with melee combat already. So it wouldn't surprise me if you if the measurement were if you have an enemy model within, a model is in combat if there's an enemy model with, or something like that. I think it'll be based on does a model have an enemy model within 3 inches?
Right.
The problem with rather than
the model to model thing makes it so much more complicated.
It's true. It does.
And I'm not sure that's the time they want to go.
Yeah, maybe. I think you'll be able to fire into combat just fine, if I were to take a guess.
Agreed. I think you'll still shoot into combat normally. I think you'll still shoot the models that you're in combat with normally. There won't be any weird penalties or anything like that. The restriction alone is enough of a penalty.
Yep.
Especially when you can ram chaff units into people. And yeah, they're going to get blown away, but still, that's a big penalty for shooting armies. I think if you've got other things, you can firebomb combat normally. We generally assume missile weapons are more accurate. I mean, gone are the days where we're talking about handguns and crossbows being the primary weapon of the day, right? I mean, these are demon guided arrows and, Sylvaneth living branches forged by Alariel and every other crazy thing. People shooting pure magical lightning from a Sigmarian crafted bow or whatever. Right. What does all this even mean? How does this stuff work? We're so far outside of the normal references, right?
Right.
So yes, there are still armies that use bows and handguns and crap. I understand that. Free people are still a thing. But we can just assume that they're well trained in the era of the mortal realms, right?
Right.
And that they can shoot in and not hit the enemy or not hit their friends. Sorry.
Yep. Okay.
And that's fine.
Other elements.
Yeah. So I think you'll see an overall refresh of War Scrolls. I think combat will stay mostly the same in nearly every regard. Do you think they'll change anything with pile-in or anything like that? Pile-in being one of the slow. I think we'll see some kind of change to pile-in specifically, but I don't know what it is. Because the problem is right now that pile-in is the time-consuming, time-wasting part of the game. So that, to me, they said they've gone through every phase and made adjustments. And to me, that's the one that has the most potential to be streamlined.
Yeah, the only way that I could imagine it is if they remove pile-in somehow. I
wouldn't see that. I think it'll stay. I don't know what that streamline means. I just feel like it'll be there to some regard. I really do. Whether it's easier for other models to hop around, easier for you to you can always move this distance or something like that, right? Stopping the locking of models, the weird swing around and then, then you lock at the backside. It's something that's very difficult for new players to get their heads around, right? I mean, it's a tough part of the game to sort of get in your head. In 40K, combat's fought like this. Every model that's within an inch.
Yeah.
And every model that's touching a model within an inch, basically, effectively.
Yeah.
So you're always just 2 ranks. I mean, that's more or less the easiest way to think about it.
Right.
Now, melee is a much less important.
AoS and stuff like that. And
I don't think that is what's getting ported in. I'm answering very clearly. I do not think that is what's getting ported in. I'm just saying you can, like, that's a very simple system because that game doesn't focus on melee. This game does. This game isn't about shooting, it's about melee. It's about punching people in the face. The vast majority of deaths in this game happen through punching, not shooting.
Yeah.
So I think they want to make that area of the game strong, right?
What do you think is going to happen to the pricing of ranged units? Do you think they're going to go to a price decrease?
Yeah, a slight one, yes. Somebody just asked the question about charging units attacking first. No way. No freaking way. Absolutely not. Not like just no. No, it would completely diametrically change the entire landscape of the game.
What if you
that is a massive change.
Can you imagine spending command points to let them do that?
Yeah, sure, because that is a thing you can do in 40K as well, by the way. That is another use for command points. Yeah, you can hop the turn sequence. Like you can hop the order and fight out, or like just fight out of order.
I don't know that they would do that.
I don't know either, but the point is that, like, sure, will there be individual models that break that rule? Yeah, of course. Like when Slanesh happens, they'll probably break the rule, just like they do now on their war scrolls, right? And the deep can break it. Like that's the way you break that stuff. You don't need any system-wide rule. That is way too heavy.
Yep.
I would be shocked beyond shocked to see that. I really would. And
other changes.
Sure. So let's see. We covered shooting. I think piling is the part of combat you need to fix, and that's it. I think Battle Shock needs nothing. Would you really expect anything to change in Battle Shock? Like they mentioned streamlining, they looked through every phase of the game. Is there anything in Battle Shock that's hard? This is a tough one for me because I find it to be the easiest phase. People make your little dead piles, you count it up, you roll a dice, you subtract your bravery. Done.
The only change that I could see them do is removing rolling the dice, and I don't know that they would do that because that would require unit redesigns.
Yeah, I can't think of anything in the Battle Shock phase. I think we're going to see a lot more allegiance abilities in the new GHB. How about that? Really? There's a thing, since that'll come out at the same time. Yeah, the way they mentioned like the Slaves to Darkness allegiance abilities and talked about, for all of them or Undivided and stuff like that.
Which they already have. Slaves to Darkness allegiance ability.
They have a generic Slaves to Darkness and stuff like that. And you can play, like, Slaves is interesting because it has like 5 different allegiance abilities you can play, or maybe 6, I don't remember. But like, my point is that like, and the reason, and we're doing this sort of faction focus, I think we're going to plant a pretty hard flag here that like, they're going to develop a lot of allegiance abilities and make sure that like, most everybody who is meant to be part of this, whatever that means,
do you think that
has an allegiance ability, has a functional way to play?
Right, and that's the next thing I was going to ask you. Like, do you think that we will see the going away of either small factions, or the absorption of small factions into like alliances?
Yes, 100%.
Like the Elven Nations Alliance or something, for all the extant Elven units. And
we're launching this at the same time they're doing the GHB. I think they're going to use this opportunity to crush a lot of the mistakes that were previously made around tiny sub-factions that have no real purpose. That doesn't mean all of them, by the way. Like, that doesn't mean don't expect suddenly everything to pile in and get massive. Like, you'll probably still have some danglers and weird ones. That's just going to be the case because there's things that they just don't feel narratively fit.
Do they stay or do they go?
They go. They're gone. They are part of their own dangler. They're a dangler now. They're a dangler forever. Hashtag dangler forever. All right. That's my argument. There you go. I'm sticking to it. Yeah. I mean, like, I think that they get rid of most of those. Like the ones that are stupid, the one model crap, things that make no sense. Roll up stuff and give them allegiance.
Lion Rangers.
Probably rolled into probably rolled into a larger elf thing. Like there's going to be some kind of elf thing. Like it's just now's the time. Just do it. Just put together some kind of like Elves of Azerheim thing or something like that. Or even combine it with a bunch of other ones and say it's the Free Peoples of Azerheim or whatever, Orders of Azerheim. Yeah, sure. There's lots of ways you can do it. We talked about that book forever ago. It doesn't have to be a book. Like the point is that there's lots of ways they could answer that stuff. And it would be overall good. Right?
Yeah.
Because it gives people, like, those are big armies that have no... Yeah, I understand they're not really, like, part of their current focus, but people have a lot of those figs. Why not? It's 2 pages.
And they still sell them.
They still sell them, and it's like 2 pages you need to put in a book. And it can turn people around. Like, it can turn a gamer into super excited about their army. 2 pages of text. That's what it takes.
Yeah, it's true. Anything else? Anything else stand out?
I think that the only other thing that I know we're at our hard limit is I think you will generally see some points rebalances on things to go with this. I think shooting will come down. I think battalions will largely come down over a lot of battalions.
Yep.
I think you will see hero adjustments pretty heavily for other armies where the heroes are wildly mispointed. There are a few armies out there where the heroes are just out of whack as far as their points goes. And I think you'll see those brought into line closer to what we would expect.
Go up or down? Or does the death head go up or stay the same?
Probably stays the same, given her she was just recently pointed. I have to imagine she stays in line. But I think a lot of like 140 or 160, 180 point heroes that that aren't spellcasters and have no business being that high kind of drop down.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope
because
so.
when you're a weak combat character, and that's kind of your only purpose, and you don't even have utility, I would certainly expect that they now point you according to that. Right?
Yep.
So those are my general thoughts.
I hope that there's a dramatic repointing of KO. Dramatic. In order to take into account the new reality of like shooting and like only shooting into the combats they're in. We'll see, but we'll see if that actually happens. I hope that yeah. I mean, overall, what I would say is that I don't think that things are going to change too dramatically. I think that it looks like the route. Oh, here's another question. Do you think that we have another Stormcast book in the near term?
Yes. Define near terms. Next 6 months, yes.
And do you think that it will be an extremist style tome, or will it be a collective tome?
Extremist style tome. Specifically around the Sacrosanct Chamber. It's big enough.
Yeah.
It looked to me like there was about 10 war scrolls there. That's enough.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that if we get a tome, like if the box doesn't have like a stable bound thing,
the box will have the rules to begin with, and then the book will come out quite a bit later.
Right.
Like a month or two is quite a bit in this case.
Yep. Yep. And then if we get a book, I think it'll be the small book. And then I think with the launch of another chapter next year, we would see the redo of a full book.
Agreed.
That's my guess. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. Any other wild predictions we want to make?
People are going to be pissed, and there may or may not be burning of armies.
No, I don't think. Like, yes, people are going to be upset. But that's always the case, right? That's just the nature of the beast. So, go
ahead.
Everything I have seen thus far has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yep.
Like that. Like really, all the rules changes, all the hints, all the discussion I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive. They look like what they're doing is integrating everything they've learned and making slight adjustments. They're taking the feedback from the community and then making decisions. They're not just doing what the community says, because we're good at finding problems. So there's an old statement in game design that the community is really good at finding problems and really bad at providing solutions. And that's very true. That is true, by the way, in software design too. It's kind of true all over the place in design. Your users are good at finding problems and bad at providing solutions. Yep. So listen to your users and then figure out how to best solve the problem. Don't make faster horses, make cars. Right? Yeah. So I think they're going all the right ways. All right, cool. I know we've got to stop. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope our little tinfoil hatting was interesting. What do you think is going to happen? That's the question. What did we miss? What didn't we talk about? What do you think is coming? Throw your crazy predictions down below. Commit. Put it in the comments. So that way you too can come back, just like we'll come back and laugh at ourselves in a month and a half. You'll be able to come back and laugh at yourself in a month and a half. Won't that be fun? But up till then, thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. I will be back home as normal next week. So we'll be back to our normal show. But as always, appreciated everybody. Thank you again to everybody who reached out, who said everything, who congratulated me, and so on. Thank you for people who came up and talked to me. I appreciate it so very much. Everybody made me feel wonderfully welcome. It's great. And so I absolutely love it. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody who watched. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.